Okay, quick announcement before we start the video. I have released a free PDF called the Animators Checklist. It's 12 pages of concentrated information which takes you through my 2D animation process. It's great for beginners, great for intermediate, advanced. People who want to make their own animated film should download this checklist. It has working checkboxes, so you can literally have it open as you're making your animation and check through each of the boxes to make sure you don't miss any important steps in the animation production. It's the answer to a lot of questions that I get about my animation process, and it contains a lot of handy tips, and it's free. So go download it. The link is in the description or probably up there. Probably my favorite part of making this was actually doing the mock-up for it, because I just had a lot of fun in this 3D software making this little book. It was fun. Anyway. How to draw in the style of other animators. I have had some experiences in the past where I've needed to make drawings look like someone else's. So I'll just tell you what I know about that, and based on my experiences and advice I would give to someone else. This is going out to people who have had their first day in a new studio and have been told, you need to animate in the style of our lead animator or animation director, our art director. It is hard to draw and animate like someone else, especially if that style doesn't come naturally to you, but you can get pretty close with enough guidance and practice. In the industry, this is done a lot, especially on big productions. It's how a big team of animators are able to make feature films with a cohesive style from start to finish. But that also comes with an advantage, because the animation director will always be around to make changes to your drawings where you go wrong. Firstly, to do it properly, you need to have their design sheets. These are designs like character turnarounds, expression sheets, height charts, posing sheets, a variety of different typical poses that the character has. Copy out each of their designs 3 to 5 times. Each time compare the drawing to the original and observe where you have gone wrong. At first you want to just try doing exact one-to-one copies of their drawings. After that, you should take the next leap, which is to draw the character in poses of your own that are not on the design sheet. See if you can maintain the proportions and relative measurements of the character when they are in these unique poses. It helps so much if you have the original artists you're trying to imitate there with you. If the artist is there with you, you can get him or her to critique the work as you're doing these poses. You'll learn so fast if they're able to red pen over your drawings. If you're able to, try to watch the artist draw the character. Take notes on how they do it. Like, what part of the body do they start with? What kind of speed are they drawing the lines at? What kind of equipment are they using, or what brush settings are they using? These are very important things to note if you want to seamlessly integrate your animation with theirs. The process an animator uses often dictates the style, so observe what order they go about making their animation in. What do they start with? So I'll show you a few examples here of what I did. So this is a drawing study demonstration, and for this one I'm drawing a one-to-one copy of an illustration by Emile Salim, who I really like her work, even though it's very different to mine. I love this cartoon saloon style cover she illustrated, but I do find this kind of style quite challenging to draw. It's deceptively difficult to draw in this way, even though it looks simple. It took quite a lot of adjusting before I was happy to move on to the next step of cross-comparing it, but I'm learning so much from this one. I'm going to drag in the original illustration to reveal how the original illustration is different from the way that I drew it from observation, and the differences should be quite revealing, I imagine. Moment of truth. Okay, so that's what they look like next to each other. This is the best trick I can show you. You move the original illustration underneath so you can see exactly where your lines were different. You can also do this in traditional. You put the illustration behind and hold the two up to the light. Wow, look at that. So, wow, I was way off on the scale of the head. You would have noticed during the time lapse of me making this sketch, I was constantly increasing the size of the head. It's even bigger. Like, I'm just not used to drawing these kind of proportions, you know, like child illustration proportions, where the head is massive compared to the body. That torso, if we take that, we can fit that inside the head. The egg as well, I was struggling a lot with the egg on that, or whatever it is. It looks to me like an egg. Just getting that nice round neck and shoulders dress, pretty much. I enjoyed drawing that hand. I felt like I learned something with the hand. Nice shape. It's a very simplified hand drawing. The hair going down a little bit too much. They were drooping. They weren't lively enough. And then I realized they're more curvaceous. They had a certain taper to them that I actually really appreciated. That was a big error. I should have got the angle exactly right with the smile. It's a very important thing to get right. I was trying to measure these spaces, like trying to measure the relative spaces here. It took me by surprise at first how small the nose was compared to the eyes and mouth. Like, it is something you expect with a children's illustration, that the nose is going to be tiny, the eyes are going to be large, the head's going to be large, but you just don't realize just how far they push these proportions when they do them. So very interesting. I learned a lot just doing that first sketch from Emile Salim. Imagine if I did 10 sketches of her work, like how much I would learn of her style then. Do everything like this in iterations. I'm not going to sit you through all the iterations that I do, but that's how you do it. Alex Nino, man, Alex Nino is an absolute legend of the comic world. His drawings are a massive inspiration to me, so he's another one I decided to study for this video. Now remember that this is just the first step I'm showing you, but then after that, from there, you start going off into your own original poses, and with the aim of looking like it was drawn by the artist. I'm not going to show you all of that process here because it would take too long, but that's where you go from here. I'm just showing you the first step. Right, well, I've really been enjoying myself with this drawing. Alex Nino is amazing. Again, I've learned a lot of stuff. He does this thing, he basically fans out these lines. He does them in a sort of fanning out way, like that, and it gives everything this kind of sinewy feel to it. I really like that. In order to try and portray his style in this way, I just had to do straight lines. I just had to go at it with confidence, you know. That's the lesson there. Like, if you do it with confidence, you can make little mistakes, you can mess up, and it's still, the overall thing is going to feel like you know what you're doing. Like, there are little parts in here where he's just worked through it pretty fast and he's just bluffed it. Like, he just fills it in with these really cool energetic lines. He'll reinforce certain lines by just doubling them up. So you see here, instead of doing just that shape like that, he's done that shape, but then he's also put in that extra line there, which is part of his like shape language. Anyway, let's bring it in. Let's just drag it on top, or beneath, that is. Hey, I thought I was going to be way further out than that. I've got to admit, I did not think I would be that close to it. Yeah, I should have measured the angle there, got that a little bit off, mismeasured the angle of the leg there or something, because I was quite far away with the knee. But the gesture is the same for the whole thing. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, I gotta say. That was really fun doing that exercise. Back to the main video. those are all examples of learning how to draw like them, so the individual poses. Now, if you're trying to learn how they animate, how they actually move a character, then you really need to observe their keyframes in sequence. You need to break them down and study them. Here are some things you can pay attention to when studying their animation in sequence. The timing structure, like how do they use ones? When do they put the animation on ones? When do they put the animation on twos? How many frames they take to do a certain movement. So for example, looking from the right and then looking over their shoulder to the left. How many frames would they do that in? Like what kind of space of time? How extreme do they go on their extreme poses? Do the characters really squash and stretch a lot, or is it a very mild squash and stretch? Are there any extra quirks they put into their character performance? Like how does the character move? Observe it as if it were a real person. Like how quickly do they move? How much weight do they have? Also in the frames themselves, do they add motion blur to their frames? Do they add smears to their frames? What are the qualities of these motion blurs or smears? What do they look like? And yeah, from there, just try your best really and do a lot of iterations. It's all about just doing a lot of drawings, a lot of studies and careful observation of the drawings, and get to the root of those observations. So it starts at a surface level thing, like maybe they draw the mouth a certain way. Well, then see, what does that imply about the construction? And then that way you'll be able to turn it in 3D space and be able to draw that from any angle. So here's a side note. Now, if you do these things, you don't necessarily just need to do these if you're a studio animator. You can also use these techniques to learn from animators on the internet and to make something of their style, bring some of their style into your own style. So you can actually practice this even if you don't have a studio position. You can actually practice these methods on animations you see on the internet. If they are observational drawings of their poses, don't publish them, don't release them as your own. That's very important, of course, because you don't want to be a thief. Okay, well, I've dug out my old folder from university, my third year of university, I think, or maybe second year. This contains in it some of my drawing assignments, one of which was to take a popular animated character and animate a scene with that character. Very good exercise, taught me a lot by doing it. But yeah, so I'm gonna open this up and it's gonna be like opening up Pandora's box. I get to see my old drawings. But first, I'm gonna switch over to this bad boy here, 50mm Canon, to shoot this on because it makes everything look really good. The character that I chose was Mowgli from the Jungle Book. These drawings were originally done by Milt Kahl, who is considered to be the GOAT animator. I believe he is probably, yeah, I think he's the GOAT animator for sure. So his drawings of these are just exquisite. I pulled as many as I could off of the internet. Yeah, studied them. I think I chose a pretty difficult one perhaps because it's a human kid, but I like a challenge, so this is what I chose for it. Okay, I remember that assignment. There's a pose. We had to take an audio clip from something very different from what the character is used to saying, and then animate that character performing the line of dialogue. So I chose a line of dialogue from Very Angry Man and wanted to animate Mowgli doing that kind of those angry actions. I believe that these were my first attempts. I did a really bad drawing there, which I scribbled out. That was probably my first attempt, and you can see them progress a little bit. These ones, you can tell that I was trying, but not quite getting it. This one looks a little bit better. Some problems with the proportions. That one was an interesting one, of him screaming, folding the arms, doing lots of angry posing and angry positions. Again, proportions are still not quite there, but just trying a bunch of poses. I think I probably jumped too far ahead. I didn't do enough studies These ones look a little bit nicer, and that's because a lot of these are direct studies of Milt Kahl's poses. So this one I'm actually annotating the different parts and making observations about the kind of line and shape language, the angles and everything, proportions of the Mowgli character, because he is a human character, but Milt Kahl was a master at just like pushing the features of the character to be very expressive. This is, you probably can't see this, but it's where I listened to the line of dialogue and started to make very quick gestural drawings and diagrams for what the character was going to do. Here's another side note, layered versus blocked production. So I understand that some people watching this might not be doing the whole studio thing, but they might instead be working on a team project, on a group project. They want to collaborate with other artists. Now, there are two ways that I've found that you can collaborate on an animation production. There's the layered approach and there's the blocked approach. So the layered approach is where you each work to your own strengths. So if someone is really good at storyboarding, they do all the storyboards for the entire animation. If someone's really good at coloring, they do all of the color for the entire animation. If someone's great at character animation, they do all of the character animation, you see? And so in that way, each layer is occupied by an artist. The blocked approach is different. In a blocked approach, each animator is allocated a certain block of animation time, and in their block, they do everything. They plan it out, they'll do the key poses, they do everything. You can actually, if you're an animation producer, you can create the storyboard or the animatic, and then from there you can do a blocked approach. The difference between these two methods, the layered approach is great for making a cohesive look for the entire animation, whereas the blocked method is good if you want to embrace the difference in styles between animators. A great example of the blocked approach is Kahlil Gibran's The Prophet. This film very clearly has a blocked approach, and the way the film is written is also very appropriate for this style of animation production. Basically with this, they had a producer. She contacted individual artists and animation studios and gave them a certain poem from the film to animate. So each of those poems came out very differently, but it's in that diversity of styles where the animation is so interesting. For the layered approach, you can just look at like any Disney film, and they're very good at creating a consistent look throughout their entire film. Now, I think that one of the big reasons why Disney is able to achieve that level of consistency through so much runtime is because when they take on animators, it's like those animators are going back to school. They have an entire education system within Disney, especially in the golden age and renaissance of Disney, that animators would go through, where the senior animators would teach the younger animators how to draw and how to animate like them. Yeah, I mean, I think if I did this nowadays, I would be able to do it a lot better, but hey ho. Here we've got a timing sheet, a timing chart. Oh yeah, this is for a walk that accelerated into a run. I found these timing sheets to be such a clinical, sterile way to make an animation, and all of the animation results that I produced with these timing sheets were just dull, lifeless. They didn't feel alive to me, and it's because I wasn't able to have that spontaneity with me. I really don't like using these timing sheets personally. Okay, now we're on to something completely different.
Maybe I should just quit and go back to making noodles. And then you're gonna say, oh, what if I don't want to be 200 pounds? I don't want to be 200 pounds. Like a dumbbell does not want to be 200 fucking pounds.
Quit, don't quit. Noodles, don't noodles. You are too concerned with what was and what will be.
Well, I hope the advice in this video will help you to imitate the style of whatever animator you're trying to imitate. If you get a lot out of these videos, if you enjoy these videos, I really appreciate any support on Patreon. And also just open up the description of this video and check through the links that I've provided there. There are plenty of really good resources for animators in the description. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.